Uh, like to welcome Mr. Rajan Anandan. Mr. Rajan Anandan is the Vice President and Managing Director of Google in India. Prior to his stint in Google from February 2011 onwards, he was the Managing Director of Microsoft in India, where I had the privilege of working in his organization. Before Microsoft, Rajan was Vice President at Dell, where amongst various responsibility, he also had the opportunity to be the executive assistant to Mr. Michael Dell. Rajan started his career with McKinsey and Company and is a master's in manufacturing from Stanford. Welcome, Rajan.
No, actually, I'll take it. Good morning, everyone. Great to be here. Hi, Ravi. It's great to be here. I wanted to start by thanking ISP and the organizers of the conference for giving me the opportunity to be with you this morning. You know, what I thought I'd do is, maybe spend 15, 20 minutes on where we are with digital in India, particularly the internet and the mobile internet, and where we think over the next 5 to 7 years we could be as a country. I'm not particularly going to touch on global trends, but I'd be glad to. I'm hoping that we'd engage in a fair bit of Q&A so I can talk about global trends as part of that. So that's what I'll do. So let's start with, I think, where we are. I think all of you are hopefully here because you're either in the digital industry or you have a strong interest in the digital industry, or you're in a field that's associated with the digital industry. About 3 months ago, iCube released their latest data, and India now has 137 million users on the net, which basically makes India now by far the third largest user market in the world. China is over 500 million, the US is about 250 million, and India now has 137 million users on the web, right? And if you think about that number, it's, you can look at it one or two ways. You can look at it and say, hey, country's got 1.2 billion, so at 137 million, it's just above 10%. What's the big deal? Or you can look at it another way and say, the most valuable demographic, I mean, I hate to use the word valuable, but if you're in business, okay, and you want to monetize, either you want to sell products, or you're targeting your advertising towards a community, etc. Most valuable audience, or target group in India, for most industries, not all industries, I would say probably with the exception of fast-moving consumer goods, which obviously touches 1 billion people. In every other industry, whether it's automotive, whether it's digital televisions, whether it's smartphones, the most valuable target audience is SEC AB 15 to 44. And there are 55 million Indians in that target audience. 90% of that target audience is today online. And if you look at a sub-demographic of that, which is, let's say, 15 to 34, SEC-AB, that demographic already spends more time online than any other medium, right? The other interesting thing to do is to look at what would happen if the first 137 million users spent a lot more time on the internet and did all the things that the internet could provide. Not just entertainment, social, but something like commerce, right? It's staggering. I mean, so 137 million already is a very, very large number. But in many ways, it's a story that is just beginning to unfold, and I think that's what excites us at Google, and hopefully that's what excites many of you in the room. So now let's think about the future, right? Industry estimates project that by 2015, India will have well north of 300 million users. We're in November of 2012. 2015 is 38 months away, the end of it, right? It's pretty fascinating. We're 38 months from the end of 2015. So we're 38 months from actually getting to 300 million plus internet users in the world. And at 300 million, India becomes the second largest internet user market in the world. And that too by far, because the US is about 250 million internet users. And as all of you know, once you get to 300 million users, that's massive scale in just about every industry, right? Because you'll cover SEC A, B, and C, you'll go from 15 to 60, and that's sort of massive scale. And we think that scale is extremely important regardless of what industry you're in and regardless of how you want to leverage the medium. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. So that's the first thing about the next few years, right? We are talking about another 150, 100 to 180 million users that'll get added in the next 36, 38 months. The second thing is probably even more interesting is the fact that all those users will come to the internet for the first time with a mobile device. They will be mobile first and most likely mobile only. And by the way, tablets, I see somebody with a tablet there. See, the tablet is the new camera. It's pretty cool. I don't know whether they're doing a panorama on that. So I'm including tablets, smartphones, feature phones. Today, of the 137 million internet users, about 30 million are mobile only. There's another 40, 50 million, like all of us in this room. They access the internet through a mobile device as well as a desktop or a notebook, right? So they're dual mode, 3 modes, 4 modes. I don't know about you all, but I don't know. Last count, I had 7, 8, 9 computers in the house of various forms. So 30 million mobile only to more than 200 million mobile only, right? And that we think is pretty important. And it's pretty important, again, almost regardless of what industry you're in and what it is that you do. Because several hundred million Indians will access, whether it's your business's website, whether it's a whether it's a transaction, whether it's watching videos, whether it's communicating, whether it's social, all of it is going to be mobile first and mobile only for 200 million plus Indians. The other interesting thing about the mobile phenomenon is, unlike in other emerging markets with large mobile internet penetration, almost all of that will be smartphones. India, I think, I don't know whether the Nielsen research team is here yet. I saw them at the airport. They came up with a recent report on the mobile internet. 27 million smartphone users in India today. So there's 70, 80 million mobile internet users, 27 million smartphone users. You know, about a year ago, when we were out sharing our perspectives, we said, look, first big magic price point is below 5,000 rupees. Smartphone. Barrier broken, 27 million smartphones, over 1.5 million units shipped a month across platforms when it comes to smartphones. But actually, we underestimated how quickly price points would come down. Within the next 4 or 5 months, India will see the first 3,000 rupee smartphone. Capacitive screen, 1 gig proc, 3.2 inches. And guess what? At 3,000 rupees, those of you that are in the consumer businesses that have scaled consumer reach in India know At that price point, you can pretty much take all of it. So the new feature phone, not by 2015, but in the next 6 months, is going to be called a smartphone. And when an Indian user goes from a feature phone connected, being a feature phone connected user, i.e. access the internet through a feature phone, to a smartphone, their data usage goes up 18 times. The average smartphone user in India spends 72 minutes a day on the internet. The only thing that they spend more time on, other than work of course, is watching TV. And our view is over the next several years, that number will more than double on a smartphone. So India will actually be a smartphone, mobile first market. The other interesting thing about mobile is what's happening with tablets. You know, I worked at Dell for many years. And when I left Dell, I was running Dell in India, 2008, middle of 2008. If somebody had come and said, you know what, tablets are going to be big in India, I would have said no. If somebody had come to me 8 months ago and said tablets are really going to hit an inflection point in India, I would have probably said not yet. Last month in India, there were 300,000 tablets sold. I could look at the number and say, hey, that's not many. I mean, what's the big deal? See, at 300,000 a month, that's 3.6 million units annual run rate, right? This year, in India, there'll only be 6 million notebooks sold. And that number actually hasn't been growing much. There are only 30 million personal computers in India installed base. Business, government, consumer, that's all, 30 million. Notebooks, desktops ever bought. By December of this year, there'll be more tablets sold per month than notebooks sold in India. By next year, the number of tablets sold in India will be twice the number of notebooks sold in India. So the other interesting thing is about mobility. Not only will India be a smartphone-led mobile connectivity market, the first computer, not a phone, but a computer that Indians will own, most of India, as a personal compute device other than a smartphone, because a smartphone is a compute device, is going to be a tablet, not a PC. And that's pretty cool, because, you know, all of us in the ecosystem, the hardware industry, the software industry, the internet industry, for the last 5 years, we've been racking up